have read circa 20 books in Spanish over the years, and I'd like to tell you about them in case you too are interested in reading more in Spanish. I'm going to break them into 5 categories: personal growth/spirituality, books about Puerto Rico, classic authors, fantasy, and finally Mexican/miscellaneous. Starting with personal growth spirituality. Los Cuatro Acuerdos. Altamente recomendado. Wanted another one by Don Miguel Ruiz after reading Los Cuatro Acuerdos, so I read La Maestría del Amor, which I also liked, but Los Cuatro Acuerdos definitely impacted me more. La Vaca. It's about not conforming to mediocrity and living to your full potential. El Mundo Amarillo. I really love this book. I did read it like 7 years ago, so some of the details are fuzzy. But if I remember correctly, the author was diagnosed with cancer in his teens, and through his years of treatment, how his perspective on life changed. And that might sound a bit heavy, but I found it to be an incredibly inspiring and uplifting philosophy on life. Finally, El Manual del Guerrero de la Luz. I was just really looking for another Paulo Coelho book after reading El Alquimista. I liked it, but again, it did not impact me as much as El Alquimista did. Books about Puerto Rico. I read Guerra contra todos los puertorriqueños antes de mudarme a Puerto Rico. I think any gringo that's going to decide to live in Puerto Rico needs to read that book. It should be required. It's available in English. It was written originally in English. Cuando era puertorriqueña. I think I read this about 3 or 4 years ago, and I found some of the vocab challenging. La carreta. And the dialogue is written phonetically to reflect como hablan los jibaritos. I also read La Línea del Sol, and I really enjoyed this one. Next section, classic authors. I read Relato de un náufrago by Gabriel García Márquez. This was the book that made me believe that I could handle Gabriel García Márquez. So then I tried El amor en los tiempos de cólera. I had to take it out from the library 4 times. I would look up translations to some of the words and did not know what they meant in English either. I would read sentences to my native Spanish-speaking boyfriend, and he would be like, which tracks? I know people who have read 100 Years of Solitude in English being their native language, and have not been able to get through it. There were some really beautiful parts in El amor en los tiempos de cólera that really resonated with me. But I read that like last year. O sea, I read it when my Spanish fluency was like up here, and it was still a struggle. I've read 2 books by Isabel Allende, El viento conoce mi nombre, which spans like a time frame from World War II to COVID. You read from a lot of different characters' perspectives, and it was really interesting how they all came together at the end. I also read La Casa de los Espíritus, and enjoyed that one too. Now on to fantasy. This was the first book that I ever finished in Spanish. If you know, you know. El Alquimista is... I think I just hugged it a couple times as I was reading it, thank you for understanding me. El Principito. You'd think a kid book would be easy. I had a book club once with El Principito. I also did a book club where we read El Alquimista. And students had an easier time with El Alquimista than they did with El Principito. La Niña que bebió luz de luna. Spain Spanish, so there's that. Kids book. I read it with a student that I had that was 14. But it's cute. Hija de la Tierra. I wanted to get into some romantasy in Spanish. Again, there were parts that I really enjoyed. It was not hard for me to read at all. But I was quite pissed off with the ending and did not continue the series. Final category, Mexican and miscellaneous. Yo no soy tu perfecta hija mexicana. Not an uplifting read. La Casa en Mango Street. We read this last summer for the book club I hosted. It's a great first read in Spanish because it's only about 100 pages long. And sometimes the chapters are truly just a couple paragraphs. So those things help you keep turning the pages. But it's written a bit poetically at times, and that can make people feel a little bit lost. There's also no punctuation that indicates dialogue. So you're reading from a 3rd-person perspective, and then all of a sudden 2 people are speaking together in the same line. And again, these are details that can make it hard when you're picking up reading in your second language. Finally read Gente Ansiosa. Didn't love. Think I would have liked it better in English. Some of the humor maybe would have come across differently. I don't know. I will be hosting book club again this summer. We're looking to do a book from Puerto Rico. So stay tuned.